Hey guys, it's Jake from Stay Fun. Today we're going to be converting the frame swapped Chevrolet C20 dually front end over to a single wheel front end. The plan is we're going to take these dually steel wheels from the Cummins frame and try and convert over to the more original looking Chevrolet steel wheels with the dog dish caps. This one's just sitting here. I'm in the middle of the conversion and I thought it'd be cool to give you a comparison of what it might look like. Let's see how I got here. Get this ugly thing out of the way and we'll figure out what to do. So I don't really know what I have to do, but I think this spacer piece here will come off because it looks like it's got bolts coming in from the other side. If I can get that spacer off and then just get some press-in wheel studs, the thread type that I need, then I don't see why we wouldn't try that, see if it could work. Problem is, getting to it might be more of the issue because it looks like I'm just gonna have to take everything off basically to get to the bolts on the backside, which I guess ain't too bad. It's not looking like a lot of fun. Let me see what I can figure out. So what I figured out is this is about to be a lot of fun. I'm gonna have to take a lot of bolts out of the backside to get this rotor loose, and then I'll have to find the correct wheel lugs to fit into the holes on the rotor. So basically what I've got is 2 bolts here. I believe that's all that's holding the caliper on. So I should be able to break those loose, kind of pull this off, set it off to the side, hang it up somewhere with a bungee probably. And then I think there's only 2 bolts here and here holding the rotor to the hub assembly. So I should be able to take those loose, pull the rotor off the front, and then get to the bolts on the back side of the rotor. At least that's the plan. I brought out a breaker bar just in case there's a lot of torque on this. I would use my impact, but I don't want to strip anything on accident, so hand loosening it is. All right, so let's start with the caliper. Yep, okay. That didn't take long. Ugh. Go ahead and try and break this other one loose. Oh, that's fun. Well, how am I supposed to get to that? That is a very poor design, Dodge. I wonder if I've got a crescent I can get on that, or if I'm gonna end up having to take the brake line loose. I hope I don't have to take the brake line loose. All right, let's find a crescent. I have a feeling that the one on the back side here, oh, even if I can't even get the crescent on. Dang it! Even if I could have got the crescent on, it probably wouldn't have worked, because with the torque the other one had, I don't think I would have been able to put enough torque on that short of a crescent wrench. And it doesn't even have the crescent side for me to be able to put another one on to increase my torque. So we'll get the brake line out of the way, I guess, then we'll get to that bolt. Alright, let's do the torque multiplier on this crescent wrench. I'll probably round off the crescent wrench before I break this thing loose, but we'll see. Come on now. Grease on me now. Very poor design, Dodge. Alright, back to what I was here for. These brakes look fairly new. Alright, so now I got these big old honkers here. What do you think the chances are I can break them loose like this? Oh dang. I had that one. Wouldn't have thought it would have been that loose. Oh, it's just spinning in there. Okay. I really don't want to take this whole thing off though. Although I guess I might have to. You know, I'm not sure that this was actually necessary now that I look at it. There's probably an axle nut, hub nut here in the center somewhere. Alright, so forget removing the hub assembly part. I did need to remove the brake caliper though, because if I pull this off with the brake caliper still attached, it won't move because it's attached to the hub assembly. But I think there's a cap here on the end it must be covering some sort of nut that holds it to the hub assembly. I don't know if it is not twist on, okay. So it's just a press on. So if you grab hold of it and jiggle it back and forth, it should come off. Everywhere else on the internet, when I was trying to figure this out, said unbolt the dually hub assembly. Well, if I could do that, I wouldn't be worried about getting the whole front rotor off. Apparently that's the design they went to in '94. That sure would be nice now. In here there's a cotter pin and an axle nut, I guess. I don't know exactly. I'm gonna figure it out, I guess. Alright, so that's on there hand tight, it seems. Oh, that slides off, okay. Must be sliding. Yep, there it is, okay. That bearing seems to be in there pretty good, so I'll just leave it. I wonder how much of that's going to be sticking out. I may want the whole front hub assembly. Yeah, that bearing is all the way out here. Well, sad news there. I'm going to have to get a whole new hub assembly. So if I unbolt the spacers on this, unfortunately one of the bearings sits into the spacer itself. That's what tightens up against the hub assembly. Now, that shaft is way too long, so if I well, I guess we'll continue to just tear it down. I wonder if that means I'm gonna have to get a new brake calipers. Well, what I thought was true, even more so. The hub is within here, so I guess I'll probably just try a brake, rotor, and hub assembly. See if that gets me what I need. Here we have the dually brake rotor and hub assembly, and here beside it is the brake rotor and hub assembly for a single wheel Dodge D350. Now these are easy to get on O'Reilly, but the problem is they're for a 3,300 pound axle, and I didn't realize there was a difference until I bought it. So this is going to be going back, but I need to find one that fits the 4,000 pound axle. What I found is it's probably actually easiest to post on like Facebook Marketplace or something like that and say, hey, I've got dually hubs for a first gen Cummins. Who wants to swap for a single wheel? Because there's a lot of people out there wanting to convert to a dually. Not a ton that are wanting to convert from dually to single. So pretty easy to find a swap, someone that's willing to swap with you. And that's actually what we're gonna work on now. I've got to get the passenger one off, and then I'll be able to take those, swap them with the guy, and bring my 4,000 pound single wheel back. So to get this hub off, I actually got to take the brake caliper off, and then the spindle nut on the end comes off, and then you can pull the whole brake rotor and hub assembly straight off of the spindle, and that's about it. Now, it is a little bit more difficult though, because the bolt right here that holds the brake caliper on has the bolt from the brake line in the way. So you got to disconnect that, which I really don't want to have to do, but you got to disconnect that just to get to the bolt on the underside so you can get the caliper off. Sucks, but I guess you do what you got to do when you got to do it. Oh yeah, one of the other more annoying things is the brake line that connects through this banjo bolt here. The line itself gets in the way of being able to take the banjo bolt out with a standard ratchet. So now I'm gonna go get me I guess a ratcheting crescent. I actually did the other side with a standard crescent, but I did not like doing that. So I'm really hoping that this ratcheting crescent makes things a little bit more smooth. Get my dribble catcher. Who decided that was a good idea? Drink all the brake fluid out of my caliper. Over here. Well, that ratchet definitely did a good job. This one's right size, right? Yeah. Okay. Bolt number 1 out. Bolt number 2 out. Caliper off. I'm gonna set it up out of the way. I know y'all aren't gonna be able to see this, but I am gonna go ahead and put the banjo bolt thing back in place. All right, I'm just gonna dump the fluid out of this thing so that it quits trying to leak all over me. And then I'll like a normal person. All right, now that I got the banjo bolt back into the brake caliper, maybe it'll quit leaking brake fluid all over the place. We're gonna move on up to the front of the hub here. We'll take the dust cap off, take that spindle nut off, all of the bearing pieces and stuff in whatever order they're in, get it all out, and then we'll be able to pull the hub right off the spindle. All right, let's see how easy this dust cap is to get off, whether I can do it by hand or if I'm gonna have to go get some channel locks. Channel locks would probably be a better method. I'll go grab them. All right, so the channel locks, grip onto that dust cap and just kind of work it back and forth. This is a press-on item, not a twist-on. Learned that earlier. And now get ready to get dirty. You got a cotter pin in there. I tend to use needle nose pliers when getting these cotter pins out. We'll see if a pair of channel locks will work. Looks like it. There we go. Little cap comes off the top of the nut. That spindle nut's on there a little bit better. Break it loose a touch. These things ain't terribly difficult to work on. They're just difficult to find. Okay, nut. And then this should have a washer before the bearing. It's not one to come out though, so we're just gonna grab the hub, pull it on off, and then we'll sort out the washer and the bearing stuff. All right, so at this point, the hub should just pull straight on off, and we'll get that front bearing out, the outer bearing, once it comes out. There we go. Oh, see that front bearing just kind of fell towards me here. So there it is. And it does have the washer piece right there on the outside. The bearing feels okay. I'll probably end up getting new ones anyways though, because I might as well while I'm in here. All right, here we got the D350 hubs with a 4,000 pound axle. And the difference is the center area here is larger because the bearing is larger, because the center of the bearing is larger, because the spindle is larger. That's how that works anyways. So, got the hub. One of these does not have a rear inner bearing, so I've got a new inner bearing and seal. I'll have to flip this one over and see if this is the one without it or not. These bearings look good. The grease in them is still red, which means they weren't driven a whole lot with those bearings in. So we're gonna just reuse what came with this. These threads are actually smaller than the D350 threads, but that's okay because I've already gotten some wheel lugs that will fit the same hex as the rears. So I won't have to carry around two different size lug wrenches to get my lug nuts off if I need to change a tire out for a spare. So let's get this sucker slid on, and then we'll worry about torque to spec and all that good stuff. All right, let's see if this one's got the rear bearing in it or not. This one does. You see that right there? It's got the bearing in it still. I just threw my front bearing out on the ground. That's good for it. Moment of truth. There it is. That slid up on there nicely. Spins nicely. All right, so washer. That washer does have a little keyway. Spindle nut. We'll get a socket and a torque wrench. We'll torque that down to the spec. And then I'm pretty sure the spec says torque and then back off quarter turn. So we'll get that out. But first, let's go put the hub on the passenger side. We got the same deal over here, but I need to add the bearing to the inner side. So I'm gonna take this front one out so it doesn't fall out. Set it right there. We'll flip this guy over and go ahead and get this rear bearing and seal in. Here's the bearing. And I need to go get some grease for this, but let's make sure it fits. Yep, fits nicely. I'll go get some grease. Got some bearing grease. Nice red stuff here. I'm gonna lube up the race here real good. Lube up the bearing. Squish it down in there. Nice and sloppy. Blah. Brand new seal. I'll probably just go ahead and throw some grease in it. That way it's holding grease inside against the bearing. Okay. And then it's in there and it's flat. Go ahead and stick this hub on. Squeeze that front bearing in there. There she rolls around nice and good too. I got the washer. And now the spindle nut. Now I'm gonna go look up what the torque spec is on these, and then I'll get back here. So the Google machine wasn't necessarily all that helpful. The guy that I read it off of the forum, where he got it from his service manual, it was 50 to set the bearings, seat the bearings into place, and then back it off a quarter turn. So that's what we're gonna do. This nut is 1 5/16, which is bigger than anything I had in 3/4 inch drive, so I got an adapter from 3/4 to 1. Oh, I guess I should set my torque wrench first, huh? That's 50 right there. All right, 50 foot-pounds, here we come. I'm gonna go part way there and spin it some. There's no wobble there. There's 50 foot-pounds there. Doesn't spin very freely like that. Spin it, try and get all the play out. I got steering movement, but no wobble there. And now let's back it off 1/4 turn. So start straight up. There we go. There's a 1/4. Should spin a little bit more freely now, and it does. Still no wobble. I would say that is probably accurate then. 50 foot-pounds, 1/4 turn off. Now I'm gonna put the spindle nut piece on there. There we go, that lines up with where my cotter pin needs to go. Go ahead and stuff that cotter pin down in the hole. There it is. All right, cotter pin bent. Right side's bent. Cotter pin holds it in place, and then the dust cap goes on. That's this side done. Let's go do the driver's side. Then we'll get the wheels put on, and we'll set it down. Should we bleed the brakes before we do? Oh, I gotta put the brakes back on. Still too excited. So I'm gonna do the front spindle nut torque on the other side. Then we'll do the brakes and the wheels and bleed the brakes and all that good stuff. All right, so what I found out on the other side is I need to take the brake caliper apart, take the piston inside, and squeeze that piston into the caliper so I have more room for the brake pads to fit over this rotor. Apparently, this rotor is a little bit less worn than the one that I pulled off. We'll get that fixed up. We'll start off up here where y'all can't see. I'm just taking the brake line off. Once I get this brake line off, I can take the brake caliper apart, and that's just a 1/2 inch bolt that holds in the top side, holds the bracket piece onto the caliper itself. Then I can pull the pads off and take it inside the device. So I lost one of the crush washers off the banjo bolt, but I got another one. Let's take this brake caliper apart. So I took the outside pad off there, and then now what I'm gonna do, I'll take that bolt right there out, and that holds the caliper to the bracket that bolts it to the hub. So there's one there, one right here, and then that leaves the bracket left, and this other brake pad comes off. I'm gonna leave that kind of there. Take this inside, and I'm gonna compress this piston. Squeeze it on in there. That way I've got more room to fit it on the rotor. I already got that piston compressed. I'll go ahead and put the pads on, get it on the rotor, then I'll put the bracket on, because then I can make sure it's spaced correctly. There we go. Okay, now that is there, turned around to where it's facing the right way, and get it in place here. We'll try and get one of these bolts started. How's that? Go ahead and stick these bolts back in so that it doesn't fall apart on me. All right, that's enough to hold it in place. Let's see if we can get this other one. Where is this other one at? Oh, there it is. Sure got my caliper squeezed together the right amount. And then we'll tighten it back down. All right, so now to get my brake line reattached. There it is, there it goes. Not very much room in there. Good to go. Now that we got the brakes on, we're gonna fill up the master cylinder and then gravity bleed these suckers. Then we'll be able to put the wheels on, make sure it looks good. It will, but it's gonna be so nice to see it look good. All right, I'm gonna get this bled, then I'll get back with you. All right, now that it's on the ground, we can torque these wheels to spec. And that spec is 110 foot-pounds. Got my torque wrench set already. Let's see what we get. Click, click. I'll go ahead and do them in a crosshatch pattern, I guess. There's that one. Make sure I got them all. Yep, all right. Whee! That's one side. You just replicate that on the other side, then it'll be torqued. Well, I got the other side torqued down, so last part, putting the dog dish caps on. Oh yeah, it's time to pull this bad boy out and do some admiring. We got it pulled out. And shoo, buddy, don't she look good with the single wheels, front and rear. That's a good looking truck right there. Tell you what, it was a lot of work, but I got it done. Just in time too, because it's got a photo shoot coming up in, well, a week. So, you know, last minute, not a big deal. But thanks for watching. Hope y'all enjoyed it. Y'all have a good one.